We will be talking about the main issues that affect web performance, what can we do in order to improve the page loading, and why should we worry about it. And then finally, we are going to take a look at some techniques that will help us improve web performance. What are some of the main issues? The main one is the amount of JavaScript that we load at first. The second one is the amount of CSS on page loading, and the third one is the amount of network calls on page loading. According to Sean Thomas Larkin, who has an amazing video on web performance on Frontend Masters, these are the main goals. We should load less than 200 kilobytes of uncompressed JavaScript in the initial page loading, less than 100 kilobytes of uncompressed CSS. We should have less than 6 initial network calls using HTTP, and less than 20 initial network calls using HTTP2. Also, 90% of the code should actually be used, because many times we load code that we don't use like at first, so why are we loading it, right? There are hundreds of case studies showing how web performance directly influences all sorts of gains for companies, especially financial ones. Here is a list of sources that you should be familiar with. There are many interesting data in there in case you ever need to convince your PM about implementing something that will improve performance. I choose a few data that I think it's important to keep in mind. These three are from Jacob Nielsen. Jacob Nielsen is a Danish web usability consultant. He holds a PhD in human-computer interaction from the Technical University of Denmark in Copenhagen. Needless to say, he has great things to say about how performance affects usability. According to Jacob, 0.1 second is the limit so that the user feels that the system is reacting instantaneously. 1 second is the limit so that the user's flow of thought does not get interrupted. And 10 seconds or above is impossible to keep the user's attention. Other very impressive data that I think is relevant is from Amazon. They saw that only 100 milliseconds improvement in performance resulted in 1% increase in overall revenue. That's like a lot, right? Okay, so now before we go to the next slide, I would like you all to stop and think why I put the Doom 95 image as the presentation opening's background.